This is the second half of the lecture on cellular respiration. Just to review a tiny bit where we started last time, we were talking about glucose and how one glucose molecule will give you 36 molecules of ATP if it's broken apart in the presence of oxygen, and how you only get 2 ATP molecules if you break that same glucose molecule apart without oxygen being present. So starting today's lecture, what we're looking at here are the steps involved in cellular respiration with oxygen present. We start with reactants of glucose and oxygen, just like we did before for glycolysis. In glycolysis, we take our glucose molecule and break it in half, yielding us a little bit of ATP. Actually, this method gets us about 10% for this step of the energy contained in a molecule of glucose. The end products of glycolysis was pyruvic acid. And you have that on your note handout, so you probably don't need to write that down. But that becomes the compound used to start the next step, which is the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle on the next slide is going to look a lot like the steps in photosynthesis, where carbon molecules get combined, taken apart, recombined, and taken apart again. And each of these steps releases a little bit of energy that's captured by high energy molecules. And those high energy molecules then, so you're going to write down high energy molecules, are used then to start the reactions of the next part of cellular respiration, which is the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain is a series of reactions that break these high energy molecules apart, resulting in the production of ATP. So if you remember, we take that ADP molecule, provide some energy, and form it into ATP, which is what your body has to use as its source of energy. That gives us carbon dioxide, water, and ATP, if you will. It's not really part of the chemicals involved, but it's built as a result of this process as your products at the end of cellular respiration. In terms of energy, like we said before, a little bit of the energy is released with glycolysis. Most of the energy is released actually in the electron transport chain. So that takes those high energy molecules and creates this ATP. We talked earlier about losing weight. If you lose weight, where does that weight go? It's actually exhaled out of your body in the form of carbon dioxide. So the more exercise I'm doing, the more glucose I'm burning, because I need ATP to power my muscles to do that exercise. Since carbon dioxide is one of the products of burning glucose, that extra weight I lose, again, is actually exhaled in the form of carbon dioxide. Moving ahead then, this is the Krebs cycle. And what you should know about this is it's its process. So it's a bunch of steps. And the process basically breaks off carbon dioxide molecules, resulting in the formation again of these high energy molecules. And we'll look at some places where that happens. So if I look, I'm going to change colors here. So if we look here, I have my pyruvic acid that I have from glycolysis. I break off one of the carbon dioxides, resulting in this low energy molecule becoming a high energy molecule. And then sort of like before in the photosynthesis, I have part of the product from the last round of photosynthesis combining with the new part that I'm adding. Once I have this 6-carbon molecule, again, I break off 1 carbon dioxide. That results in this low energy molecule becoming a high energy molecule. And once again, splitting off a molecule of carbon dioxide, resulting in a low energy molecule becoming a high energy molecule. And we also have a little bit of production directly of ATP. So in summary, think of the Krebs cycle as a process of breaking carbon dioxides off molecules, releasing energy. That energy is temporarily passed from a low energy molecule to a high energy molecule. Now why don't we just break this 6-carbon glucose molecule down all at one time? That's kind of the difference between a slow fire and an explosion. An explosion gives you a lot of energy all at once, but it doesn't have energy for a long period of time. So your body's more efficient capturing energy from your food if it can do it little bits at a time rather than one kind of big explosion. So these high energy molecules then leave the Krebs cycle and they become a part of the next part, which is the electron transport. Onto your notes somewhere on the side, write down basically what you have here. The electron transport chain is a series of reactions that take high energy molecules, break them apart. That energy is then used to change ADP into ATP, which is finally the form of energy that your body needs to supply its energy needs. If you look in the book, there's a couple of pages of very complicated information, but I want you to know just the function of this system, not exactly how it works. So the electron transport chain takes these high energy molecules that are produced as we break the glucose apart, and through a series of reactions they create ATP. And in fact, most of the ATP created through cellular respiration is created through the electron transport chain. Moving ahead to some practical applications of this. This chart is just trying to show you what your body uses for energy in different situations. Your cells do not store a lot of extra ATP. In fact, they have enough ATP to last only 2 or 3 seconds. So if you think of yourself sprinting the 100-meter dash, you only have ATP right away in your cells for the first 2 to 3 seconds. At that point, your body has to use one of these 2 other methods to provide the ATP to power your running. If oxygen is present in sufficient amounts, your body will do cellular respiration. In the case of sprinting, you really can't supply your body with oxygen fast enough, so it uses the lactic acid cycle or glycolysis to simply get 2 molecules of ATP. Again, this is a situation that happens without enough oxygen. Your body can only do that full speed for about 90 seconds because at that point, as we talked about yesterday, the lactic acid starts to build up in your muscles. That's painful, and most people then will reduce how hard they're working. This results in an oxygen debt. Your body needs oxygen to break down all this lactic acid. So even if you stop exercising, you feel yourself breathing rather heavily as you try to get enough oxygen back into your body. Next, in the presence of oxygen, so with oxygen, cellular respiration takes place, producing 36 molecules of ATP for every molecule of glucose that you're using. Your body will continue using glucose or its larger, I guess, molecule form glycogen. So glycogen is a bunch of glucose molecules that are all hooked together. I remember that from chapter 2. After about 20 minutes, your body starts to think, how long will this demand for energy be here? I think I should start burning a secondary source of fuel. So after about 20 minutes of completely aerobic exercise, your body will start to burn fat along with the glycogen. So the lesson here is if you are trying to lose weight or to lose fat from your body, you need to exercise at an aerobic pace for more than 20 minutes. Because it's not until you get to about that 20-minute threshold that your body actually starts burning fat as a source of energy. This again is just a summary of where the energy, the ATP is produced. You can see very little of it's directly a result of the reactions of glycolysis or the Krebs cycle, that most of it comes from high energy molecules that run through this electron transport chain to produce most of the ATP. Again, one glucose molecule gives you 36 molecules of ATP. In terms of the training effect, to try to tie some of this energy use into what you might learn in life fitness, your body responds to demands for oxygen to do exercise in the following ways. First, it tries to figure out a way to get more oxygen to your cells. It does that by growing more capillaries or blood vessels. Your body actually produces more blood, so there's more red blood cells to carry that oxygen to your cells. And your heart actually becomes bigger and stronger, so that with each heartbeat that your heart undergoes, it pushes more blood out, thus putting more oxygen to your cells. So step one of the training effect, or the first thing that happens, is that we get more oxygen delivered to your cells so they can do cellular respiration longer and more efficiently. Secondly, since the mitochondria is the organelle where cellular respiration is taking place, if we have more little energy factories, we can produce more ATP. Lastly, as a result of kind of these two changes in your body, one of two things happens. You can do more work with less effort. Okay, so trying to make this make sense. When I'm out of shape, let's say it takes me a 90% effort to run 9-minute miles. As your body gets into better shape, it may only take you like an 80% effort to still run at that 90% or 9-minute mile pace. So the same amount of work is easier as you get in better shape. The other thing you could do is continue working harder, but become faster. So if I, again, work at 90% effort when I'm in shape, instead of getting a 9-minute mile pace out of that, I may be able to run at an 8-minute, 30-second pace. Again, same effort, I'm just faster now. Last thing to look at is how photosynthesis and cellular respiration connect. The end products of photosynthesis, glucose and oxygen, are the reactants for cellular respiration. And just the other way, the products I have from cellular respiration are the reactants in photosynthesis. So these two things keep kind of the flow of energy, if you will, between animals and plants kind of balanced out. The second thing to note here is the amount of energy. So if I look up here, it takes this plant cell 54 molecules of ATP to make one glucose molecule. Yet when we as animals burn that same molecule of glucose, we only get 36 molecules of ATP back. So there's a little bit of inefficiency or loss of energy. And you might think of that as one of the contributing factors to the 10% rule that we talked about in our last unit. We lose some of the efficiency once animals try to burn the glucose made by plants. And then the rest of that energy is lost to the organism keeping itself alive.